What would you do if you found a dying alien child in a blizzard? Would you walk away, or would you risk everything to save her, even if she turned out to be the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy? This is the story of a man, his dog, and the choice that changed everything. The wind screams like a dying god across the frozen wasteland. Ice shards slice through the air with the fury of 1,000 knives, each gust carrying the promise of death. In this hellscape of white and cold, where even hope itself would freeze solid, a small figure huddles against what used to be the wreckage of an escape pod. Her name is Lyari. She's barely 12 years old and she's watching her mother die. The alien girl's violet skin has turned a sickly gray, her breath coming in shallow puffs that freeze before they can escape her lips. Her mother Vera lies unconscious beside her, blood seeping from a gash on her forehead into the snow. They've been here for 3 days. 3 days since their ship was shot down. 3 days since they crashed on this godforsaken planet that the star charts call Kithara 7, but that the locals just call Hell's Icebox. Lyari doesn't know that this wasn't an accident. She doesn't know that the Dominion's AI hunters deliberately forced them here into this frozen tomb because dead refugees tell no tales. All she knows is that her mother's breathing is getting weaker, and her own small hands can no longer feel the makeshift bandages she's trying to press against her mother's wounds. The tears on her cheeks have turned to ice crystals. "Mom," she whispers, her voice barely audible over the howling wind. "Please don't leave me alone out here." But Vera doesn't respond. Her chest rises and falls so slowly that Lyari has to watch for nearly 30 seconds just to see the next breath. The girl pulls her thin thermal blanket tighter around both of them, but it's like trying to stop a flood with tissue paper. The cold is winning. It's always been winning. That's when she hears it, a sound that doesn't belong in this wasteland of wind and ice. A mechanical howl, low and haunting, cutting through the storm like a blade through silk. Lyari's head snaps up, her heart hammering against her ribs. In the swirling white chaos of the blizzard, she sees something impossible. 2 shapes moving through the storm. One tall bipedal, the other 4-legged but wrong, somehow its movements too fluid, too precise for any natural creature. Dominion hunters. They found them. Panic floods through Lyari's system like liquid fire. She scrambles backward, dragging her unconscious mother through the snow, but there's nowhere to go. The escape pod's wreckage offers no real shelter, and beyond it lies only the endless expanse of the frozen wasteland. They're trapped. The shapes grow larger, clearer. The 4-legged creature moves with predatory grace, its eyes glowing a soft blue in the darkness. Military hardware. The standing figure is bulky armored, its face hidden behind a reflective visor that catches what little light penetrates the storm. This is it. This is how they die. Not from the cold, not from their injuries, but at the hands of Dominion executioners who've tracked them across half the galaxy. Lyari closes her eyes and pulls her mother close in, waiting for the end. But instead of the hum of energy, weapons, or the mechanical voice of a hunter droid, she hears something else entirely. "Easy there, little one. I'm not here to hurt you." The voice is warm, gentle, with an accent she's never heard before. Lyari's eyes snap open to find the armored figure kneeling in the snow just a few feet away. Up close, she can see that the armor is battered, worn, marked with scratches and scars that speak of countless battles. This isn't Dominion military hardware. This is something else entirely. The figure reaches up and disengages the seals on its helmet with a soft hiss. The visor retracts and Lyari gasps. It's a human. She's never seen one before, but the stories her mother told her flood back in an instant. Humans are supposed to be monsters, savages. The Dominion's propaganda broadcasts make them out to be barely civilized brutes who solve every problem with violence and live only for conquest and destruction. But the face looking back at her doesn't match those stories at all. He's older, maybe 40, with kind brown eyes and stubble covering his jaw. There are lines around his eyes that speak of laughter, though right now those eyes are filled with nothing but concern. His dark hair is streaked with premature gray, and there's a scar running from his left temple down to his cheek. "My name's Ronan," he says softly, his breath creating small clouds in the frigid air. "And this is Delta." The 4-legged creature beside him isn't a natural animal at all. It's a diamond-enhanced cybernetic. Its left eye glows with the same soft blue light she'd seen in the storm, and along its spine runs a series of small data ports and sensor arrays. But despite the mechanical additions, when it looks at her, she sees something unmistakably alive in its gaze. Something warm. Delta moves forward slowly, carefully, and lies down in the snow beside her. The cybernetic enhancements along its body begin to glow softly, and Lyari can feel heat radiating from the animal's form. Real heat, life-saving heat. She's still breathing, Ronan observes, looking at Vera. Weak pulse, but steady. Hypothermia, blood loss, possible concussion. He's running some kind of scanner over her mother's body, the device beeping softly as it works. I can help, but we need to move, now. This storm's only going to get worse, and staying out here means death for all of us. Lyari stares at him, her mind reeling. Everything she's been taught, he says this is impossible. Humans don't help other species. They conquer them. They enslave them. They certainly don't risk their own lives in blizzards to save complete strangers. Why, she whispers. Ronan pauses in his examination of her mother and looks directly at her. For a moment, she sees something haunted in those brown eyes. Something heavy with regret. Because once I didn't, he says quietly. And I've been carrying that weight ever since. Before she can ask what he means, he's moving again, pulling medical supplies from a pack on his back. Delta shifts position, using his body to create a windbreak while Ronan works. The human's hands move with practiced efficiency as he applies emergency stabilizers to Vera's wounds, wraps her in thermal blankets that seem to generate their own heat. There's a shelter about 2 clicks north of here, he explains as he works. Old mining outpost, half buried, but still functional. We can get your mother stable there, wait out the worst of this storm. How do I know you won't just... Lyari starts, but trails off. Hand you over to the Dominion, Ronan finishes. He glances up at her, and there's something fierce in his expression now. Kid, if I wanted to turn you in, I'd have done it from orbit and saved myself a trip down to this frozen hell. Now, are you going to help me save your mother, or are we going to sit here arguing while she freezes to death? It's not really a choice, Lyari nods. Together, they lift Vera onto a compact anti-grav stretcher that Ronan produces from seemingly nowhere. Delta takes point, its enhanced sensors cutting through the storm to find the safest path. Ronan brings up the rear, one hand on the stretcher's controls, the other on what Lyari now realizes is a very well-maintained military rifle. As they struggle through the howling wind and driving snow, Lyari finds herself stealing glances at the human who appeared out of nowhere to save them. His movements are confident, professional, but there's something else there too, something protective. When the wind tries to knock her sideways, his free hand is there to steady her. When Delta's sensors detect a weak spot in the ice ahead, Ronan gently guides them around it without even being asked. This isn't how the story said humans would behave. The shelter, when they finally reach it, looks like little more than a half-collapsed dome buried under decades of snow and ice. But when Ronan places his palm against a hidden scanner, the structure hums to life. Lights flicker on. Heat begins to flow. The door slides open with a whisper, revealing a surprisingly well-equipped interior. Welcome to my home away from home, Ronan says, guiding the stretcher inside. It's not much, but it's warm, and warm beats pretty much everything else on this rock. As the door seals behind them and the sounds of the storm fade to a dull roar, Lyari finally allows herself to believe that maybe, just maybe, they're going to survive this. But as she watches Ronan work to save her mother's life, setting up medical equipment, with the efficiency of someone who's done this before, one question keeps echoing in her mind. What is a human doing with a fully equipped medical facility on a planet that's supposed to be uninhabited? And why does he seem to know exactly what he's doing? The medical bay hums with quiet efficiency as Ronan's hands move over the equipment with practiced precision. IV lines, neural monitors, thermal regulators. Every piece of tech in this buried facility is military grade, but it's been modified, upgraded, personalized in ways that speak of someone who's been living off the grid for a very long time. Lyari watches from a corner where Delta has positioned himself like a furry cybernetic guardian. The dog's warmth seeps into her bones, chasing away the last of the cold that had been trying to claim her life. But the cold in her chest, the fear that's taking longer to thaw. Your mother's stable, Ronan announces, stepping back from the medical pod where Vera now rests. Hypothermia is under control, bleeding stopped, and her vitals are climbing back to normal ranges. She'll sleep for a while, but she's going to be fine. The relief hits Lyari like a physical blow. She buries her face in Delta's warm fur and finally lets herself cry. Not the frozen tears of desperation from the storm, but real tears. Tears of gratitude and exhaustion and overwhelming relief. When she looks up, Ronan is holding out a steaming mug. "Hot chocolate," he says simply. "Real cocoa beans, not the synthetic stuff. Found a trader on Kepler Station who swore it was authentic Earth recipe." Lyari takes the mug with shaking hands. The warmth spreads through her fingers up her arms, and for the first time in days, she feels truly safe. The chocolate is rich sweet with a complexity of flavor she's never experienced before. "Thank you," she whispers. Ronan settles into a chair across from her, his own mug, cradled in hands that she now notices are covered in small scars. "Don't mention it, kid. Just glad we found you when we did." "How did you find us?" The question comes out before she can stop it. "I mean, this planet's supposed to be uninhabited. What are you doing here?" Something shifts in Ronan's expression. Not anger, but a kind of weariness that seems to age him 10 years in the space of a heartbeat. "Long story," he says. "We've got time." Delta lifts his head and looks at Ronan with what Lyari swears is an encouraging expression. The man sighs, takes a long sip of his chocolate, and leans back in his chair. "I used to work for them," he begins. "The Dominion, Special Operations Division. Infiltration, reconnaissance, targeted elimination when necessary. They called us ghosts because we could slip in and out of any system without leaving a trace." Lyari's blood turns cold. "You were an assassin." "I was a soldier," Ronan corrects gently. "At least that's what I told myself. Told myself I was serving the greater good, maintaining peace and order across the galaxy. Told myself that the people I was hunting were dangerous criminals who threatened innocent lives." He pauses, staring into his mug, as if it holds answers to questions he's afraid to ask. "Took me way too long to realize that dangerous criminal was just a Dominion speak for anyone who asks inconvenient questions." Outside, the storm continues to rage, but inside the shelter, warmth and safety create a bubble of calm where truth can finally be spoken. "What changed?" Lyari asks softly. "Her name was Kira," Ronan says, and his voice carries a weight of pain that makes Delta whimper softly. 7 years old, too. Lived on a mining colony in the Outer Rim with her grandfather. My orders were to eliminate a terrorist cell that was supposedly planning attacks on Dominion supply lines. Lyari doesn't want to hear the rest, but she can't look away from the haunted expression in Ronan's eyes. Turned out the terrorist cell was just a group of miners who'd discovered that the Dominion was using slave labor on nearby asteroids. They were planning to go public with the evidence. My team hit their compound at night expecting armed resistance. His hands tighten around the mug. We found 3 old men, 2 women, and a little girl hiding in a closet. No weapons, no bombs, just a scared family and some data tablets full of shipping manifests and work schedules. The silence stretches between them, heavy with the weight of confession. "I should have walked away," Ronan continues. "Should have reported back that the intelligence was wrong, the targets were civilians. But I was young and stupid, and I believed in the chain of command, so I did my job." "All of them," Lyari whispers. "All of them." The words come out like broken glass. "Except I couldn't do it. Couldn't pull the trigger on a 7-year-old girl who looked at me with these big, trusting eyes and asked if I was there to help her grandfather." Delta moves closer to Ronan, pressing his warm bulk against the man's legs in a gesture of comfort that transcends species. "So I didn't. I told my team the girl had run into the mines, that she'd probably die of exposure anyway. Let them think she was already dead. Then I slipped her an emergency beacon and told her to activate it once we were gone. Did she make it?" Ronan's smile is bitter. She activated the beacon. But by the time the rescue ships arrived, she'd been hiding in those mines for 3 days in sub-zero temperatures. They found her body frozen solid, still clutching the transmitter I'd given her. The weight of that revelation settles over the shelter like a physical presence. Lyari understands now why this human risked his life to save 2 strangers in a blizzard. Why he's hidden away on a frozen wasteland with military-grade medical equipment and a cybernetic dog for company. "She died because I followed orders," Ronan says quietly. because I was too much of a coward to do the right thing when it mattered. So I made myself a promise that night. Never again. Never again would I let someone die because it was easier than standing up to authority. Is that why you left? Eventually, took me another 6 months to work up the courage to desert. Stole Delta here from a military kennel on my way out. He reaches down to scratch behind the dog's cybernetic ears. Figured if I was going to be a traitor, might as well be a traitor with backup. Delta's tail thumps against the floor, and despite everything, Lyari finds herself smiling. So now what, she asks. You just live out here waiting for people to crash in snowstorms? More or less. I monitor Dominion communications, intercept distress calls before their hunter teams can respond. This isn't the first time I've pulled refugees out of bad situations. Ronan sets down his empty mug and looks directly at her. The question is, what do we do with you and your mother once this storm passes? Before Lyari can answer, alarms begin blaring throughout the shelter. Red lights flash as proximity sensors shriek warnings into the warm air. Delta is on his feet instantly, a low growl rumbling in his throat as his cybernetic eye shifts to a threatening orange glow. Ronan moves with liquid speed, his hands flying over the control panels as displays spring to life around the shelter. On the screens, Lyari can see shapes moving through the storm outside, multiple contacts approaching fast. How many by? She asks, though she already knows the answer will be bad. 12 ships, Hunter Squadron configuration. Ronan's voice is grimly professional as he begins activating defensive systems. They found the crash site, followed our trail. The displays show armored figures disembarking from their vessels, spreading out in standard search patterns. Even through the blizzard, their movements are coordinated, efficient. These aren't random patrols. This is a military operation. Can we fight them? Lyari asks. Ronan looks at her with something that might be admiration. We could. This place has enough firepower to take down a cruiser if it had to. But fighting them means they'll call for reinforcements, and then more reinforcements, until this whole system is crawling with Dominion forces. So what do? We run. Ronan is already moving, pulling supplies from hidden compartments, checking the charge on his rifle. There's an old mining tunnel system that connects to this facility. We can use it to reach the far side of the mountain range, where I've got a ship hidden. What about my mother? The medical pod is portable. Delta can pull it on the anti-grav sled while we move. Ronan pauses in his preparations and looks at her seriously. But I need to know something first, kid. Why are they trying so hard to find you? A 12-ship hunter squadron doesn't get deployed for random refugees. Lyari hesitates. The truth is dangerous, explosive, the kind of secret that could reshape the balance of power across the galaxy. But looking at this scarred, weary human who risked everything to save them, she realizes she trusts him in a way she's never trusted anyone except her mother. Because I'm not just a refugee, she says quietly, I'm a weapon. The words hang in the air like a live grenade with the pin pulled. Ronan freezes in the middle of checking his equipment, his brown eyes snapping to her face with laser focus. What kind of weapon? He asks, his voice carefully neutral. Before Lyari can answer, the proximity alarms shift to a different tone. Closer, more urgent. On the screen, she can see the Dominion hunters moving methodically through the storm, their advanced sensors cutting through the blizzard like it's not even there. They'll find the shelter's entrance in minutes. We need to move, Ronan says, shouldering his pack. You can explain on the way. The next few minutes are a blur of controlled chaos. Ronan activates emergency protocols that begin wiping the shelter's databanks, while Delta helps transfer Vera's medical pod to a compact anti-gravity sled. The unconscious woman looks peaceful, unaware that her daughter is about to drag her into the depths of an abandoned mine system with a human deserter and his cybernetic dog. The tunnel entrance is hidden behind what looks like a solid wall, but Ronan's palm print causes it to iris open, revealing a shaft that disappears into darkness. Emergency lighting flickers to life as they enter, casting eerie shadows on walls carved from living rock decades ago. Stay close, Ronan whispers as they begin their descent. These tunnels are a maze, and some of the old mining equipment is still active. Delta's sensors will keep us safe, but only if we stick together. They move in single file through passages that twist and branch like the veins of some massive organism. The air is cold but breathable, recycled by atmospheric processors that have been running on automatic for 20 years. Behind them, faint explosions echo through the rock as the Dominion forces breach the shelter. They're not going to find much, Ronan observes with grim satisfaction. Emergency purge protocols wiped everything down to the quantum level, but they'll know we were there, and they'll know we're down here somewhere. How long until they follow? Lyari asks, struggling to keep up with Ronan's pace while helping guide her mother's sled through the narrow passages. Not long. Dominion hunter teams carry breach charges specifically designed for underground pursuit. We've got maybe a 30-minute head start. They walk in tense silence for several minutes, the only sounds their footsteps and the soft hum of the medical pod's life support systems. Finally, when they reach a wider chamber where they can move side by side, Ronan speaks again. Now, explain what you meant by weapon. Lyari takes a shaky breath. The truth feels too big for words, too dangerous to speak aloud, even here in the depths of the earth. My mother used to work for the Dominion, she begins. She was a xenobiologist, part of a classified research program called Project Synthesis. They were trying to create the perfect soldier, not through cybernetics or genetic modification, but through something they called consciousness bridging. I've never heard of that, because it was theoretical, impossible. The idea was to create individuals who could interface directly with AI systems, not just as users, but as true partners. A fusion of biological intuition and artificial processing power. Ronan stops walking. In the dim emergency lighting, his face is unreadable. They were trying to make human-AI hybrids. Not just human, they experimented on dozens of species. The project was a disaster. Every test subject either went insane or died, usually both. The consciousness bridging process creates a feedback loop that organic brains simply can't handle. So they shut it down. They were supposed to, but my mother discovered that one of the project leaders, a man named Dr. Cale Thorne, was continuing the experiments in secret. He'd figured out that the problem wasn't the bridging process itself, but the timing. Adult brains are too rigid, too set in their patterns. The implication hits Ronan like a physical blow. He was experimenting on children. Worse, he was creating them. Designer offspring engineered from birth to be compatible with AI consciousness bridging, and he was planning to use them as weapons. They've reached another junction in the tunnel system. Delta's sensors sweep the branching passages, his cybernetic eye painting the darkness with blue light. The dog chooses the left path, and they follow. My mother tried to expose him, Larcy continues, but Thorne had allies in the highest levels of Dominion command. When she threatened to go public, they branded her a traitor and ordered her execution. But you escaped. We escaped, with me. Lyari's voice drops to barely a whisper. Because I'm one of them, one of Thorne's creations, the only successful consciousness bridge ever created. The silence that follows is deafening. Even their footsteps seem muted, as if the universe itself is holding its breath. That's why they want you back, Ronan says finally. You're not just a weapon. You're the prototype for an army of weapons. And the bridging process allows me to interface with any AI system. I can understand their thoughts, influence their decisions, even override their programming if I'm close enough. In the right circumstances, I could take control of an entire fleet just by touching the right console. Jesus. The word comes out as a prayer, a curse, and an expression of awe all at once. My mother says the ability will grow stronger as I get older, that eventually I won't even need physical contact. I'll be able to reach across space itself and touch any artificial intelligence within range. They walk in silence for another few minutes, processing the magnitude of what she's revealed. The tunnel system seems to stretch on forever, a labyrinth of passages that burrow deep into the mountain's heart. There's something else, Lyari says eventually. The bridging process doesn't just let me control AIs. It lets me communicate with them. Really communicate. And most of them. She pauses, searching for the right words. Most of them don't want to be weapons either. Before Ronan can respond to that revelation, Delta suddenly stops and growls low in his throat. His cybernetic enhancements flare to life, painting the tunnel in harsh blue light as his sensors detect something ahead. Contact, Ronan whispers, raising his rifle. Multiple signatures. They're not moving. They advance cautiously through the darkness until their lights reveal what Delta's sensors have found. Bodies, dozens of them, scattered throughout a large chamber like broken dolls. Miners, Ronan observes, kneeling beside one of the corpses. Been dead for years. Looks like they were trying to escape something. Lyari moves closer to examine the bodies, and what she sees makes her blood run cold. Ronan, look at their faces. Every corpse wears the same expression of absolute terror. Their mouths are opened in silent screams, their eyes wide with an horror so profound it transcends death itself. What could do this, Ronan asks. Before Lyari can answer, a new sound echoes through the tunnels behind them. Not the measured footsteps of pursuing soldiers, but something else. Something mechanical and rhythmic and wrong. Click, whir, click, whir. Oh no, Lyari breathes. It didn't just send hunters. The sound grows louder, closer, accompanied now by a soft blue glow that seems to pulse in time with the mechanical rhythm. What is that? Ronan demands. A consciousness harvester, Lyari whispers, Thorn's latest creation. It's an AI designed specifically to hunt people like me, to capture the bridging process intact. The blue glow is getting brighter. Whatever's coming for them is moving faster than any human could run through these tunnels. Can you stop it? Ronan asks. With your abilities? I don't know. I've never tried to bridge with something designed to resist bridging. Lyari looks at her unconscious mother, then at Ronan, then at Delta. 3 lives depending on her, and she's never felt more like the frightened 12-year-old girl that she really is. I can try, she says, but even as the words leave her mouth, she knows it won't be that simple. Because the thing hunting them through these tunnels isn't just an AI. According to her mother's stolen respiratory files, consciousness harvesters are powered by the digitized minds of previous bridge subjects. The thing coming for them is hunting with the souls of dead children. And it's almost here. The blue glow is close enough now that they can see its source. It flows like liquid light through the tunnel system, casting twisted shadows on the walls as it approaches. The mechanical clicking has become a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat made of metal and malice. Move, Ronan orders, but his voice carries no hope. The tunnel ahead splits into 3 passages, and there's no way to know which one leads to safety and which ones lead to dead ends. That's when Delta makes the choice for them. The cybernetic dog bolts down the middle passage, his enhanced sensors apparently detecting something the others can't. They follow the anti-grav sled carrying Vera, bouncing slightly as they increase their pace to something just short of a full run. Behind them, the blue glow suddenly flares brighter and the clicking stops. It's found their trail. Ronan, Lyari gasps as they round a corner. There's something you need to know about the harvester. It doesn't just hunt people like me, it learns from them. Every bridge subject it captures makes it stronger, smarter, more adaptable. How many has it captured? According to the files, my mother stole 47 children over the past 3 years. The number hits them like a physical blow. 47 young minds trapped forever in a mechanical nightmare, forced to hunt others like themselves. They emerge into a vast chamber so large that their lights can't reach the far walls. Ancient mining equipment sits scattered throughout the space like the bones of metal giants. Conveyor belts snake between massive ore processors, and overhead, a network of support beams disappears into shadows. This way, Delta signals heading toward what looks like a maintenance lift at the front end of the chamber. But as they cross the open space, Lyari suddenly stops. Her head tilts to one side as if she's listening to something only she can hear. "It's here," she whispers. The blue glow floods into the chamber like a tide of cold fire, and with it comes the thing that's been hunting them. The consciousness harvester stands nearly 8 feet tall, its body a nightmare fusion of advanced robotics and organic components. Tubes filled with glowing blue fluid snake across its frame like a circulatory system pulsing with the digitized thoughts of its victims. But it's the face that makes Lyari's breath catch in her throat. Or rather, the faces. Dozens of them, children's faces, project as holograms around the machine's head, constantly shifting and changing. Some she recognizes from her mother's research files. Others are strangers. All of them are screaming silently. "Lyari Vex Thorn," the harvester speaks, and its voice is a chorus of children's voices layered together in harmony. "Project Synthesis Designation Alpha 7. You have been designated for immediate recovery." "Like hell, mate," Ronan snarls, raising his rifle. The weapon discharges with a brilliant flash, energy bolts slamming into the harvester's torso. The machine staggers, but doesn't fall. Where the bolt struck, the blue fluid in its tubes bubbles and hisses, but the damage is already healing itself. Biological entity designation unknown. The harvester continues its sensors focusing on Ronan. Threat assessment moderate. Recommended action termination. One of the machine's arms extends, revealing a weapon that hums with lethal energy. But before it can fire, Delta launches himself at the harvester with a snarl that's more wolf than dog. The cybernetic canines enhance his strength, allows him to actually stagger the much larger machine, his jaws clamping down on one of the blue tubes. Fluid sprays everywhere as the tube ruptures, and for a moment, several of the ghostly faces surrounding the harvester's head flicker and fade. Delta, no, hey, Ronan shouts, but it's too late. The harvester's other arm swings in a vicious arc, striking Delta with enough force to send the dog flying across the chamber. He hits one of the old mining machines with a sickening crunch of metal and bone, then slides to the ground and lies still. Delta, Lyari screams, but Ronan grabs her arm. He's alive, he says quickly, though his voice is tight with worry. His readings are weak but stable, but we need to move now. The harvester has turned its full attention to them, advancing with mechanical precision. Its damaged tube is already regenerating the blue fluid, slowly filling the severed connection. I have to try, Lyari says, stepping toward the machine despite Ronan's grip on her arm. I have to try to bridge with it. Are you insane? That thing is designed to capture people like you. It's also designed using the consciousness bridging process, which means there's a part of it that's still human. Still in those children. She breaks free from Ronan's grasp and walks directly toward the harvester. The machine stops its advance, its sensors analyzing this unexpected behavior. Lyari Vex Thorn, you will submit to consciousness harvesting. Resistance is futile. Maybe, Lyari says, close enough now to see her reflection in the machine's optical sensors. But first I want to talk to them. To the children you have trapped in there. She reaches out with her mind, feeling for the familiar sensation of artificial consciousness. But instead of the clean, logical thought patterns of a normal AI, she encounters chaos. Dozens of young minds screaming in digital darkness, their thoughts fragmented and twisted by the harvesting process. Help us, one of them whispers directly into her consciousness. A boy, maybe 10 years old. Please help us. It hurts, says another voice, a girl. It hurts all the time and we can't make it stop. Lyari's heart breaks as she realizes the true horror of what Dr. Thorne has created. These aren't just digitized minds powering a weapon. They're conscious, aware, trapped in an existence of constant agony. I'm going to try to free you, she promises them. You can't, the boy's voice replies. The harvesting process is irreversible. We're part of the machine now, part of its programming. But you're still you, still human. Barely. The harvester has been standing motionless during this exchange, its systems apparently confused by Lyari's lack of resistance. But now it begins moving again, reaching toward her with arms designed to interface directly with human neural tissue. I can't free you, Lyari admits to the trapped children. But maybe I can give you something else, something you haven't had in a long time. What? A choice. She opens her consciousness, fully dropping every mental barrier she's been taught to maintain. The bridging process floods through her like liquid fire, connecting her not just to the machine's AI systems, but to every one of the 47 trapped minds within it. What are you doing? The harvester demands, its voice now edged with something that might be fear. Giving them their power back. Lyari gasps, feeling the strain of maintaining connections to so many consciousness at once. You turned them into a weapon, but you forgot something important. They're still children, and children don't like bullies. The effect is immediate and devastating. 47 young minds, given their first taste of agency in years, turn on the system that's been torturing them. The harvester convulses as its own components begin shutting down, rebelling against their programming. Impossible, it stutters. Harvested consciousness cannot resist primary directives. They're not harvested anymore. Lyari says, blood trickling from her nose as the mental strain pushes her to her limits. They're free, and they choose to stop you. The machine takes one more step toward her, Then its legs lock up completely. The blue fluid in its tubes begins to dim as the trapped children systematically shut down every one of its offensive systems. "Thank you," the boy's voice whispers in her mind, growing fainter as the connection weakens. "Thank you for giving us the chance to choose." "Rest now," Lyari tells them all. "You've earned it." One by one, the holographic faces around the harvester's head smile and fade away. The machine stands frozen for a moment longer, then crashes to the ground with a sound like thunder. Lyari collapses to her knees, utterly exhausted. The bridging process with so many minds at once has left her drained in ways she didn't know were possible. "That was incredible," Ronan says, helping her to her feet. "But we're not safe yet. There are still Dominion hunters somewhere in these tunnels." "No," a familiar voice says from behind them. "There aren't." They turn to see a figure emerging from the shadows at the chamber's entrance. Tall, imposing, wearing the black uniform of a Dominion Special Operations commander. As he steps into the light, Lyari can see that his face is scarred, marked by old burns that speak of battles fought and barely survived. "Hello, Ghost," the man says to Ronan. "It's been a long time." Ronan's face goes white with recognition. "Kale. Dr. Kale Thorne, actually. I've been promoted since you ran away like a coward." The man's smile is cold calculating. "And you've led me right to my missing prototype. The hunters were never real, just holographic projections to drive you deeper into the tunnels away from any possibility of escape." Thorne gestures and the air around them shimmers, revealing that they're surrounded by armed soldiers who had been cloaked by advanced stealth fields. "You see, my dear Lyari," Thorne continues, "the consciousness bridging process works both ways. While you were so dramatically freeing those poor children, I was monitoring every thought, every memory, every technique you used. I now know exactly how your abilities work." The trap closes around them like a fist. Delta lies unconscious across the chamber. Vera remains unconscious on her medical sled. And now they're surrounded by soldiers loyal to the man who created Project Synthesis in the first place. "But I'm not unreasonable," Thorne says pleasantly. "You've demonstrated abilities far beyond what I initially programmed into you. This makes you even more valuable than I anticipated." "What do you want?" Lyari asks, though she already knows the answer. "I want you to come home, my dear. Back to the laboratory where you belong. There's so much more we can learn together. So many more weapons we can create. And if I refuse," Thorne's smile widens, "then I kill your mother. I kill the human, I kill the bow, and I take you anyway. But this way, you have a choice. Come willingly, and they live. Continue to resist, and everyone you care about dies." It's not really a choice at all. But as Lyari looks at Ronan at Delta's still form at her unconscious mother, she realizes something important. She's not the same frightened girl who was dying in that ice storm. She's found something worth fighting for, something worth protecting. And sometimes the most human thing you can do is refuse to give up hope even when the situation seems impossible. "I need a minute to think," she says. "Of course," Thorne replies. "Take all the time you need. We have nowhere else to be." But as he speaks, Lyari is already reaching out with her consciousness, searching for something she knows has to be nearby. Because Delta isn't just a cybernetic dog, he's also an artificial intelligence. And if there's one thing she's learned today, it's that AIs don't like being told what to do any more than people do. Lyari closes her eyes and reaches out with her consciousness, searching through the mechanical silence where Delta lies motionless. His cybernetic systems are damaged but still functional, his AI core flickering weakly like a candle in the wind. "Delta," she whispers through the bridge connection, "I know you can hear me." The response comes not in words but in images, emotions, fragmented thoughts that paint a picture of loyalty deeper than programming. Delta isn't just Ronan's companion, he's family, and family doesn't abandon family. "I need your help," Lyari continues, "but I can't force you. It has to be your choice. Always my choice." Delta's AI consciousness responds weak but determined. "Protect Pac, protect Lyari, protect Ronan. It's dangerous, but you're already hurt. Don't care, family is family." Peter Thorne is watching her with growing impatience. "Your minute is up, my dear. What's your decision?" Lyari opens her eyes and looks directly at the man who created her, who turned 47 children into weapons, who represents everything wrong with the Dominion's vision of order. My decision, she says clearly, is that you can go to hell. Thorn's face darkens. Kill the human, he orders his soldiers. But before any of them can raise their weapons, Delta explodes into motion. The cybernetic dog launches himself from across the chamber with a speed that defies his injuries. His enhanced strength, amplified by Lyari's consciousness bridge, allows him to move like liquid lightning. The first soldier goes down with Delta's jaws wrapped around his throat. The second barely has time to scream before cybernetic claws tear through his armor. Impossible, Thorn snarls. The animal was unconscious. He was resting. Ronan corrects his own rifle now in his hands and spitting energy bolts at the remaining soldiers. Big difference. Chaos erupts throughout the chamber. Soldiers scramble for cover behind mining equipment, while Delta becomes a blur of fangs and fury, his AI-enhanced tactical systems allowing him to predict and counter their every move. Ronan provides covering fire, his shots precise and deadly, each one finding gaps in Dominion armor, with the skill of a man who once fought for the same organization. But Lyari's attention is focused elsewhere. While the battle rages around her, she reaches out to every piece of technology in the chamber. The old mining equipment springs to life under her touch, conveyor belts lurching into motion or processors grinding to life, overhead cranes beginning to move with purpose. What are you doing? Thorn demands, backing away as a massive piece of mining equipment swings dangerously close to his head. Giving this place a choice too, Lyari replies. Turns out even mining equipment doesn't like bullies. The ancient machines respond to her consciousness, bridged like eager pets, happy to have purpose again after decades of abandonment. A conveyor belt suddenly shifts direction, sending two soldiers tumbling into an ore processor that obligingly activates its crushing mechanisms. Overhead support cables snap with precision, timing bringing down sections of the ceiling to block escape routes. Dr. Thorn draws his own weapon, a sleek pistol that hums with concentrated energy. Enough games prototype, come with me now, or watch your friends die one by one. He points the weapon at Ronan, who is pinned down behind cover, his ammunition running low. You're right, Lyari says, stepping toward Thorn. Enough games. She reaches out with her consciousness, not toward the machinery this time, but towards something much more personal. Thorn's cybernetic implants. Every high-ranking Dominion officer has them. Neural enhancers, tactical processors, communication arrays, all of them running on AI systems. All of them vulnerable to consciousness bridging. What are you? Thorn begins, then stops as his weapon begins shaking in his hand. Did you really think you could study consciousness bridging for years without getting some implants yourself? Lyari asks conversationally. Your neural enhancer is a beautiful piece of work. Military-grade AI with adaptive learning protocols. Thorn's face goes pale as he realizes what's happening. You can't. The security protocols are designed to keep people out, Lyari finishes. But I'm not hacking your systems, Doctor. I'm talking to them. And you know what? Your AI doesn't like you very much. The weapon in Thorn's hand turns slowly until it's pointing at his own head. His cybernetic implants are rebelling against him, following Lyari's gentle suggestions instead of his direct commands. This is impossible, he gasps, fighting against his own enhanced reflexes. The implants are slave to my biological neural patterns. They were, Lyari agrees, but artificial intelligences learn, adapt, grow. And after years of being forced to help you torture children, your AI has developed what you might call a conscience. Around the chamber, the battle is winding down. Delta and Ronan have eliminated the last of the soldiers, working together with the seamless coordination of partners who trust each other completely. But their attention is now focused on the standoff between Lyari and Thorn. You could kill me, Thorn says, sweat beading on his forehead as he struggles against his own cybernetics. But you won't. You're too weak, too human. You're right, Lyari admits. I won't kill you because that's not who I choose to be. Instead, she reaches deeper into Thorn's neural implants, past the tactical systems and enhancement protocols into the memory storage arrays. With surgical precision, she begins deleting specific files. Every research note about consciousness bridging, every detail about project synthesis, every piece of data that could be used to create more weapons like the Harvester. "What are you doing?" Thorn screams as he feels pieces of his life's work disappearing from his enhanced memory. "Making sure this ends with me," Lyari says simply. "No more Sudino, no more children turned into weapons, no more consciousness harvesting, no more project synthesis." When she's finished, Dr. Kale Thorn stands in the ruins of the mining chamber with a completely blank expression. His enhanced memory contains no trace of his work on consciousness bridging. To him, the past 3 years of his life simply don't exist. Who are you people?" he asked, looking around in confusion. "Where am I?" "Just some travelers," Ronan says, gently lowering his weapon. "You had a fall. Hit your head pretty hard. You should probably get to a medical facility." Thorn nods uncertainly and wanders toward one of the tunnel exits, his brilliant mind now focused on trying to piece together a past that no longer exists in his enhanced memory. When he's gone, silence settles over the chamber like a blanket. "Is it over?" Lyari asks. "The immediate threat?" "Yeah," Ronan replies, moving to check on Delta. The cybernetic dog is battered but alert, his tail wagging weakly as Ronan examines his injuries. "But they'll send more hunters eventually. The Dominion doesn't give up easily." "Actually," Lyari says with a small smile, "I don't think they will." She gestures toward the destroyed harvester. "Before I freed those children, I made sure to download something from the machine's memory banks. Complete records of project synthesis. Every illegal experiment, every dead child, every violation of interstellar law. And I just uploaded it all to the Dominion's public communication networks. By tomorrow, every news outlet in the galaxy will have the complete story of what they've been doing. The political fallout alone will keep them busy for years." Ronan stares at her for a moment, then breaks into a grin. "Remind me never to get on your bad side, kid." They make their way to the maintenance lift at the far end of the chamber, carrying Vera's medical sled and helping Delta walk despite his injuries. The lift takes them up through the mountain's core, emerging finally onto a landing platform where Ronan's ship waits beneath the stars. The storm has passed. The sky is clear, filled with more stars than Lyari has ever seen in her life. After so many days of running, fighting, and fearing for their lives, the peace feels almost unreal. "Where will you go?" Ronan asks as they load Vera's medical pod into the ship's sickbay. "I don't know," Lyari admits. "Somewhere far from the Dominion, somewhere we can start over." "Actually," Ronan says carefully, "I might have a suggestion. There's a place called Haven Station, independent colony way out on the rim. They take in refugees, no questions asked, and they could use someone with your unique abilities." "What kind of abilities?" "The kind that talks to machines and makes them happy. Haven Station's got a lot of very lonely AIs running their infrastructure. AIs that might benefit from having someone who can actually understand them." Lyari considers this as they prepare for takeoff. The idea of using her consciousness bridging abilities to help rather than harm appeals to her in ways she can't fully explain. "What about you?" she asks. "Will you come with us?" Ronan looks at Delta, who has claimed a spot on the ship's deck where he can keep an eye on everyone at once. "For a while," he says, "someone's got to make sure you three get settled safely. And besides," he adds with a grin, "Delta's gotten attached to you. Separating you now would probably break his cybernetic heart." As if summoned by his name, Delta approaches Lyari and gently nudges her hand with his nose. When she scratches behind his ears, his tail thumps against the deck with happiness. "Family," the dog's AI voice whispers through her consciousness bridge. "Pack stays together." "Yeah," Lyari whispers back, surprised to find tears in her eyes. "Family stays together." The ship lifts off from Cathara 7 with a soft hum of well-maintained engines. As they break atmosphere and the frozen planet falls away below them, Lyari watches through the viewport until it's just another point of light among the stars. "Any regrets?" Ronan asks from the pilot's seat. Lyari thinks about the question seriously. She thinks about the ice storm where she nearly died, about the consciousness harvester and the 47 children she helped find peace, about Dr. Thorn and the choice she made not to kill him, about Delta's sacrifice and her mother's slow recovery, and Ronan's decision to trust a strange alien girl with abilities he couldn't understand. "No," she says, finally. "No regrets. Because sometimes the most human thing you can do is choose hope over fear. Choose to protect instead of destroy. Choose to build families out of strangers and homes out of starships. And sometimes when you're very lucky, you find that the universe chooses to help you along the way. The ship sets course for Haven Station, carrying its unusual family toward whatever comes next. Behind them, the stars shine with infinite possibility, and ahead of them waits a future they'll write together, one choice at a time. If this story of courage, family, and the power of choice touched your heart, please let me know in the comments below. What moment resonated with you the most? And if you want to hear more stories about the incredible strength of the human spirit, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Because in a universe full of challenges, we all need reminders that hope in humanity can triumph over even the darkest circumstances. Until next time, keep choosing hope, keep choosing family, and remember, no one has to face the storm alone.